Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Been an exciting week. Fun talking to Don Beebe, and you got to hear him recently. Former football player with the Bills and Packers in Carolina, and now a football coach who talks about living your life the right way, working hard, never give up, never quit, living life for Christ. And he even has in his contract, he's got a 10-year contract, and in it, it says he's allowed to do Bible studies at a public college. So he specifically had that written in there. He couldn't be criticized, chastised, talked about for running Bible studies for his football guys, which is insane. So anyway, with that, I am excited. This week we've got a great new book that's coming out. Just got released. Scott Holloway is the author, and he's with us today. We're going to talk about components of striving for the masteries. Uh, so, interesting topic this time of year. I love to look back, reflect, and see how we did, and then see where we're going. And so, with that, Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Scott, you're a pastor, you're a dad,
Yes,
you're a husband. Not only you're a dad, but you're a dad 9 times over and soon to be 10.
yes,
That's
that's right.
awesome. When people say, "Hey, married kids," what's your typical response to whatever their or what's their reaction when they find out that you've got nine and you got another on the way?
Yeah, well, they kind of think we're a bit crazy, but we're used to that, and it's kind of I would say over the years, people have seen that like our kids, like we aren't a bunch of like there aren't like a bunch of hellions running around kind of thing. Like they've been a blessing. Like I know we a lot of times go to the seniors' homes and kind of minister to the seniors there, and they appreciate them. So it's kind of we don't. At this point we've heard it all kind of thing of the different comments, and so we don't let it bother us, and we just let it we just we really enjoy it, and we're glad to have the kids that we have, and we find it gives us a really full life, and it is kind of not the norm nowadays, but it's there's I find it's a real blessing. So
I've heard from other families that have a higher number of children that the typical reaction is, you know what prevents that, right?
yeah, yeah, there's a
I
lot of
find that one to be a really annoying remark.
yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, we've heard quite a few of the different ones, but it's yeah, it's kind of been our choice, and we haven't regretted it. So,
Did you know from the time you got married that you both planned to have a large family or
well, I know when we were before we got married, like we asked like we because we met actually it was her dad uh asked if I would be willing to write her, and so we corresponded for about 6 months before we actually met, and we wrote a lot um, as well. And that was really good because it kind of helped build communication as a key part of our marriage. But I know we asked that question was like, like I asked her, like, do you like kids? And would you like to have kids? And so we both did. And we kind of thought, well, we'd want to have at least four was sort of what our thought was. And so that happened fairly quickly. Um, I think within the first I think yeah, probably 7 years of our marriage. And then, but it was just, we were kind of open to whatever God would give us. And it just sort of, um, we just would get another one and another one. And it just, each time, like we had a child, we thought, okay, well, our family's complete and we're thankful for what we have. And then, but then the Lord would give us another one, and we're just thankful for each. So,
yes, yes. Yeah, in I've got an insurance business where I'm an insurance broker, do a lot of home auto business, life insurance for people across the Midwest. And it's funny when I get somebody on the phone who's retired, I go, uh-oh, they're on retired time. which means a simple 2 minute transaction, which it's fine if it goes over and we talk and we get to connect and everything else. But retired time, they're ready to go 2 hours if you've got the time available.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh boy, I gotta be aware that need to also accomplish all the other things I need to accomplish today as well, because retired time is different than I'm on the clock at work and need to accomplish some things. So when you have nine going on 10 kids, married 21 years, and I think about my family and my time and things like that, and you mentioned communication being really important with you and your wife. What do you guys do to communicate with nine kids? Like pastor, you've got some other business interests as well. What are
mhm,
some key tips? Because I'm thinking I can learn from somebody like you who has, I would assume, even more limited time than I have.
right. Yeah, well, we try to make sure that we have some time to talk, and a lot of times, like in the mornings, um, I'll wake up my wife and wake up some of the kids at the same time, but usually there's a bit of time in the morning where we can discuss a few things, um, and then like there's often like when I get home, then we'll have a bit of time to talk, and I know occasionally like the kids are kind of knocking on the door and want our attention, but we just say, okay, well, not yet. We have to finish talking, and then like we try to at different times where we've taken trips for conferences or other things, like we end up having a lot of time to talk, whether on a plane or something like that, and so it just yeah finding the time and I guess recognizing too that when say there's kind of an issue coming up between us, usually it's because we haven't communicated. We're making assumptions of each other that may not be true, and so identifying, okay, well, we have to resolve this. Like giving us a silent treatment isn't going to be the answer, right? And so it's been good, and we kind of because we, I guess, laid that foundation early on. It gives us a good basis where we do tend to understand each other fairly well, and it's I guess resolved or prevented a lot of conflict that way. So
So when you say mornings, you guys connect, is that before the kids get up?
yeah, like usually because I'm up doing some things earlier, but like I'll wake Emily up at 6, and then we usually have breakfast at 7, and so there's usually some time there, and yeah, we just try to carve out times where we just like, and of course, different things too with texts and
Hmm.
other things too through the day is good just to connect with each other, and yeah, it's just I guess it's something that I guess we've done it for a long time, so it's become like a good habit for us, and so it right now it seems kind of normal, natural for us, and so in a way you don't necessarily think about what we do, but I would say that's what we have done is just we know when we need to talk that we make the time, and some other things can wait. So
So it sounds like the word priority comes to mind. You prioritize your wife and she knows she's a priority.
yeah, we try to do that and like make sure that um, we have those moments together, and we are busy with things, but um, yeah, it's just making sure that we're not neglecting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So not neglecting each other. It sounds like it's just built into your fabric. Like you started out communicating and then that just spilled over into your marriage. You never had a spot where there was a gap or you mentioned not giving your wife the silent treatment. Maybe you did that for a second and thought, this isn't bad. Let's correct this course.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I would say definitely that's from experience. It's sort of when we've times where we maybe have been a bit at odds, like we recognize that it is usually a lack of communication and maybe passing a judgment on someone where we don't know all the facts and or just have misunderstood them, right? And so if we if we take that time, then a lot of times it resolves and we're generally like I would say for both of us when we've realized we've like hurt the other or just maybe uh, misjudged that we're able to kind of get that resolved and forgive one another and so there isn't like a bitterness or something that's lingering that where we so I'm thankful for that. It's
Is
and
there something that you guys laugh about now, but that was a challenge and you're like, can you believe how dumb I was, or can you believe how much I missed the mark on that one or didn't understand?
yeah, well, I know when we first got married, we kind of look back at it because my wife was American and she ended up coming up to Canada and of course I think she underestimated the difference that there would be coming up here. And at the time, like the job I had wasn't paying a lot. And she was excited about, of course, making like cooking for me, making all these meals. But first trip she went to the grocery store, um, it was kind of she was getting stuff, and then she got quiet, and then she started putting stuff back on the shelf, and then we paid for what we had, and then she went home and went in the bedroom and started crying. And I was just like, "What just happened?" And it was actually um, she called her mom to talk to me because she didn't know how to express it, and it was basically she found that things were a lot more expensive up here,
Uh,
and she thought, "Well, how am I going to like make the meals I want to?" And so we look at it now, and it's like, okay, yeah, just express that, and we found like just different things, right? Like I got a better job, and then she learned to kind of watch the sales, and so like it was something to adapt with, but it was just kind of early on. It was just a little bit, just a lot for her to process, and and so that I would say is one that we kind of look back at and just kind of with the good, like not where we're making fun of each other, but just like it was just where a growing part that we had to do, and and yeah, it's just a lot of it is learning to go
was
through
any of
those
it the
moments.
conversion rate between American dollars and Canadian dollars?
Um, well, somewhat is just like it just tends to be because we have only a tenth of the population and we have really large land mass, and so
Yeah.
a lot of it is in terms of like our dollar doesn't have the same strength the American dollar does, and then usually, especially in a smaller community, you're paying more for shipping and trucking and stuff. So
Okay.
it's just
Okay.
it's part of life.
So it's a real dollar difference as opposed to a dollar American is dollar 50 Canadian back then.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of different things that add into the equation there. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be shocking when you have a plan and then realize that plan isn't going to work. And with that, um, an odd sort of way for that to transfer to you to say, "Hey, time for you to get a better job."
yeah, well, and that is the thing is just looking at like there's things that we have to be challenged in and be stretched in, and that's certainly been the case with like having having more kids and of course starting a church here and having a business and other things that and it's just it's a good part of life to be stretched and as we found like the Lord kind of helps like he's wanting to stretch us in that way. And so as we kind of yield to the program and just take the steps to kind of broaden things as needed, then the Lord kind of helps to open that up.
Yes, yeah, 100%. When you say Lord helps to open that up, what type habits have you developed to help you stay connected to the Lord so that he can open things up?
Um, well, for me, a few different things. Like I try to make sure that I get up uh, fairly early and have some time to just get my head on straight in a way, and so it's kind of read my Bible and um, write down hymn. Like also try to do um, different things. I usually go for a walk in the mornings. That kind of helps settle me down, and I would say too, like finding connection with other men has been a big part of that too. Like I know I've had different ones that have been mentors, and sadly different ones have passed on. But like sort of finding others to kind of take their place, and then uh, I know connecting and being part of Dad's Edge for me has been a help over the last few years as well. Just where because certainly for me sometimes it's when you're a pastor it's there's almost the expectation, well, you got it all together, you don't really go to anyone else for help, everyone comes to you for help. But I realize that I need that, and and certainly like I find the blessing that the Dad's Edge has been to me is that I'm just one of the guys. It's not I'm not really in that position, like, and it just allows me to be helped and help others without uh, someone look at me as being like some kind of expert or anything like that. So,
That's great. So I've been in different places and I've heard pastors say the exact same thing. I've been in some local Bible studies where a pastor will drive 30, 45 minutes away from his community, do a Bible study with us, and like, hey, what do you do, man? I'm a pastor. Yeah, welcome. Glad to have you here. He's like, I don't want to be the expert in this Bible study. I want to be a member of this Bible study. And I'm so grateful to be outside of my community. Would you guys allow me to just be me? Would you allow me to not be up on a shelf or viewed as the expert? Certainly, I'll lend what I have. However, I just want to be a guy and I want to be around other guys. Like they're like, man, that's awesome. So it's great being in those environments where you've got people that are very knowledgeable of the Bible, but also as men to treat a pastor like another dude because it's it can be isolating, lonely, solitude. So it's great that you've got your local guys, but it's also great that you've got some guys across the world that you intentionally connect with so that you've got a place to help grow others and have others listen and help mold you as well.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a big help.
So as I review the book, what I like about it, especially at this time of year, I like to do weekly reflections. I like to do quarterly reflections, daily reflections as well. And then end of the year, look back and see what was, see what went well, what opportunities, where I spent my time, how I can work to change that for the next year and achieve better results, have more focus. And this book is like a kind of a guide, I think, for that. Here's all the different areas of life that are important, and you know, what's the plan? And you've got some nice, simple worksheets. So one thing I like simplicity. I had a guy once join one of my coaching programs, and he measured 134 things daily. Measured
Wow.
134 things daily, and I was like, let's get down to 3 to 5. And he nearly lost his mind. There's no way. So what if we measured 3 to 5 things and we got your results and moved you towards where you actually want to be? Like rocket ship passed. And he's like, finally, he goes, all right, I'll do 7. Finally came to a compromise. And after 3 months, he's like, this is unbelievable. I've accomplished so much more in the specific areas that were important to me. And I realized some other areas were even more important that I, was just blind to because I was so busy, you know, measuring and monitoring and paying attention to every little detail of his life. So, um, you jump right in your book with vision. And it says, if we move forward confidently in life, we need to have a clear sense of where we need to go. By his life and death, Jesus Christ provides us with the ultimate ideal we are to pursue. Uh, Guys I talk to sometimes have a challenge with vision. One, they have no idea what the design is for their life. They have no idea what their unique gifts and abilities are. And then others uh, say, hey, life's always worked out for me, and I've never had a plan. I've never had a vision. So I'm not going to do that now. Like I don't want to. What would you
Right.
say? What would you say to somebody that either has challenges with coming up with a vision, and then also for the guys that flat out refuse because life's always worked out, and I've gotten to good places with where things just take me.
Yeah. Um, well, for the former, I would say just realizing that you don't want to squander kind of your life and your time. And so trying to get a sense, okay, this is a path that I need to take. It gives our lives focus, and it enables us to just move forward and just make as much of our life as we can. Like it's and finding that, of course, where we're to go is always a challenge. Um, but certainly, I would say, as we understand, kind of theologically, is like we're made to seek God, and He's the one that created us. If He's the one that knows what we're created for, right? And so, as we seek Him, He's going to make that clear. And so, as we pursue after Him, and have Him be our focus, and okay, I need to seek Him, I need to seek to be like Him, then a lot of times so much more of what we're supposed to do becomes evident, right? Because we start um, discovering some of our giftings, some of the ways that He's given us something that He's given to no one else, and we just start to open up our life and discover, okay, that yeah, this is what I'm here for, and it gives us such a greater feeling of value and accomplishment when we know, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. For the latter, where they're like, well, I everything kind of seems to work out. Um, what I would say to them is just recognizing that God's had His hand on their life and is bringing them along, and they maybe haven't really understood all that He's been doing, but becoming aware of that and realizing, okay, He's worked these things out and brought us to this place. Okay, why? What does He want me to do now? Because He's brought me to this place. And so having that um, awareness and realization, it's like, okay, yes, um, that He's had a vision for my life. I've maybe been blissfully unaware of it, but He's been leading me in this path. And now He wants me to really understand what that path is, and really get move forward in it. And so that you can really see beyond just kind of, okay, everything's worked out. Well, how much further can I go now that I really know what's going on? I'm kind of self-aware. I'm kind of God aware now, and that now there's something that He's put me in this place to do. What is it, and how can I accomplish it?
I think in listening to you, I think sometimes, not sometimes, but often, God uses our wives to help get us on the path. So as much as we pray and focus and maybe the vision thing, we're fighting it. Our wife breaks down and cries and says, "I'm never going to be able to afford all the stuff," and doesn't even have the courage to, or the words inside of her. So she calls her mom and says, "Hey, call my husband, call Scott, tell tell him I got problems." And what were you thinking when you're on the other side of that phone call when you're hearing, you know, your wife has problems and she's never going to be able to cook for you guys? Like,
Yeah,
she's
well,
got a life sentence of ramen noodles.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was just kind of realizing, okay, well, I need to learn to help her, and like it's what I was used to, and so I didn't really know that it was going to be an issue. But it's just, I guess, really understanding through that I needed to expand myself in different ways. One, in terms of connecting with her and helping her to see that, like, she didn't have to feel like she could just express it to me. She didn't have to feel ashamed or scared to or anything like that. And so that was part of like the process there. But then as well for me, it's like, okay, well, um, getting a sense, okay, this is what we need, and I need to um, grow myself, like find a job that does better, and so it's taking taking leadership in that sense, and so it all ended up being a very good thing, and like and I can see with that as um, like as we each learned to accept, okay, we need to grow in this area. Like she learned um, how to like watch the sales and things, and
Yeah.
she does very well with how she manages things and makes sure that we have lots of good food to eat and yeah, like it's and so we work as a team with that and so it's and I would say like that's definitely, as you said, like our wives are a help to us because I think they love us. They want to see us succeed. They want us to feel that we're accomplishing things and becoming all that we can be. And so I would say with my wife in different things, like certainly she's prompted me in different ways. Certainly with being a writer and other things that's really been um, helpful to have that, and it's not been like a nagging or anything like that. Just where
Did your
she's
wife
had,
kind of prompt you to write the book?
well, she's prompted me with writing, not necessarily specifically with this book, but I know like I have another book that I wrote a few years ago. It's a children's book called "Stay Close to the Shepherd," and I haven't got it on Amazon yet. I'm working on that, but basically. It was something that I had basically written it for the kids, just a story, and then, of course the shepherd is Jesus, um, and uh, and so a story about the sheep in a flock, and it had a tendency to wander away and things, and just learning it's better to stay close to a shepherd. And of course, speaking of us, and I was kind of I'd written it, but just kind of left it alone. But then I know during COVID, she suggested, hey, you should maybe work on this. You've got time, get it published, and so I did. And so then like, and it's just the thing is like I found that writing is something that I I find it like I write to help others, but I know it's something that's I feel it makes me feel like really good to do that, and it certainly challenges me because finding time to write, you have to kind of block out time and be disciplined just to make that happen because there's many things that can take away from that. But um, it's just the more I've done it, it's the more I want to keep doing it, and it's not necessarily like hope that it's something I become successful at, but uh, I do it kind of. I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Pressfield at all.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because with him, like he was, he felt he was a writer, and a lot of his family at the time weren't supportive of it. But he said, "Well, I have to do this for the love of the game, even if I never get good at, like I never become successful." And of course, he is very successful now.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of like I know I've uh, he's been like a lot of his books, like The War of Art, have been very inspiring to me, and it's just kind of that thing, right? That it's it's something that God gives a person, and you have to get it out. If you don't, it almost like it haunts you, kind of thing, right? If you know that you have
Did you
something
put
in that needs to be expressed.
did you put a date or did you use dates at all when you were writing the book? Um, Completion dates or target dates? Or did you just
Yeah, I try to do that, like because I know especially with this year, um, I was because I had been working on it the previous year, but then I had a bunch. I was really busy with carpentry, and it kind of got pushed to the side, and I regretted that. And so I thought, no, I have to get going on it. And so I started working on it, and it was um, good. Like I because I and it's always good to kind of keep oneself accountable and set some dates. And because I know um, because like I went to I know I was going to a conference, and I wanted to like let people know about the book, but then sort of let them know, okay, it's going to be available
hmm
uh, in November, and so I was able to work towards that and go through various things, but make sure that like I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to make sure it was done right.
hmm
Um, but and I'm quite happy with the end product. But at the same time, like it was sort of I knew I had to keep working on it, and it's still like I look at it with the book. It's something where I still have to be devoting some time to it, even if it's just letting people know about it, right? Because nobody else is going to market it for me. And then as well, like I already know what I'm going to be writing about next. And so kind of getting that sense, okay, at a certain point I need to get started on that. And so where it like that's become um kind of a discipline of my life that it's like I need to have that in order to help others, but it as well for my own self.
Yes, yes.
Um
I, I
and
bring that
so
up
I
from the
want to keep doing it.
perspective of um, if we know what we want to do and we just have the idea and we don't put dates on it and we don't have any accountability tied to it, we don't have anything to track, it can just float out there as an idea and be a comfortable thing for us. And uh, there's never a to do, there's never an action item, there's never a, you don't, you look back on the week and go, I didn't do anything about that again, whatever. But once you
Yeah.
put dates and timelines on things and start getting other people involved, that's where you can really, really, really take action. The guy that I mentioned that had all those measurables, he was measuring small to-do type items, and none of them were, well, not none of them, but almost none of them were attached to a bigger, longer term thing to accomplish.
Mhm.
Turns out he ended up getting married, dialed in relationships with kids, and then started an online business all within 6 months. And all of them are flourishing compared to the little minute things that he was tracking that, yeah, they compounded and did things over time, like taking his vitamins. He would track that every day, what time he took his vitamin and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you're going to do that anyway. And like, if you mess that one up on an individual day, like whatever. But what are you doing? What are you doing tracking, how you treat your ex-wife, how you treat your kids, how you, help kids through different challenges. He had a career goal, but yet it didn't have any dates, didn't have even a first action step. he
Mhm.
wanted to start this online business. And once he put it on paper, he talked about writing and helping others, but also helping yourself. Once he started putting his vision on paper and putting some steps behind it and some measurables, his life radically changed. And that's what I see from your book is, um, you know, having a vision, having knowing what your identity is and who you are in Christ, which a lot of guys have challenges with. We can skip over that part, but guys, if you got challenges with your earthly father, whoever your earthly father was, and that's creating challenges with the heavenly father, let me know, or dump it out in the Journey of a Christian Dad group, and let us help you work through that one. That one can be a huge obstacle. I know you love physical fitness, you love nutrition. Um, like those are in the book. I love the fact that you included sleep. That one's one that 10, 15 years ago was common, work hard, you can sleep when you're dead, all these sayings that were out there. Uh, why did you put sleep in there?
Well, I would identify that, like for many of us, and like we're trying to operate in life from a deficit position, and that can be in many ways. Like we can understand it financially when we're like behind on bills, like where we're just struggling, right, to try to make sure we get enough to pay what's coming up and everything else. But I think we really want to identify that sleep-wise, that a lot of times we're not getting the sleep we need, and that's affecting our mood. It's affecting our attentiveness, affecting our ability to think, and physically as well. Like it's if you're trying to say lose weight and get in shape, like you need to get to sleep in order to just rebuild your body and like, and if you're doing it right, like when you get sufficient sleep, like that's actually when you're burning a lot of your calories is when you're sleeping, right? And so it's it just getting that is realizing this is a part of my life that I need to have. And yes, like, and I try to show the balance in the book. Like we don't want to be oversleeping, but usually our tendency is where we undersleep and then we just caffeinate ourselves to kind of keep going. And that's gonna we don't we can do that short term, and sometimes we have to do it short term. But when that's like the habit of our lives for years after years, like there's going to be a reckoning that's going to come. And so we, instead of waiting for that to happen, is realizing, okay, I need to try to build that back in, and and sometimes it's like there's different aspects of it too. Of because I know the next thing we talk about is the idea of the discipline of peace, because sometimes we can't sleep because we're worried about so many different things, and we can't calm ourselves down. And so it's kind of taking those many ways in tandem where we because many times when we learn to calm ourselves down, and a lot of times really as we exercise faith by praying to God to give him our worries, and just saying, okay, he can handle this. I'm in his hands, and I don't have to um, just be up all night. I can give my worries to him and let him. He's going to be up all night, kind of thing, so he can deal with those, right? And so just learning that, and so when we do actually get back to where we're sleeping well, it just we find that we're more cognizant, we're easier to get along with, and it just we can find that we're able to function at a much higher level, and it just that kind of compounds where we just realize, hey, this is a much better place to be than trying to just play catch up when I'm always tired and never have the energy that I need to accomplish what I want to do.
You've been in the Word, close to the Word, had a good relationship with Christ all your life, I believe.
Yeah, I haven't really had um, a time where I kind of kind of sowed my wild oats or anything like
Yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
it kind of stayed like I would say personally, we all have times where we're not as close as we should be, but thankfully I
So
haven't
that
gotten
lead,
too far
yeah,
off the
that
path.
leads to a question. Have you been to a spot where, in the Bible it talks about don't be anxious, don't worry. You just mentioned how people have anxious moments or worrying about something so they don't sleep and
Mhm.
instead turn that over to God. You mentioned God's up all night anyway. Like let him.
Yeah,
Have you had trouble with that in your life at any spot? And was there something that showed up in your life that you had trouble shaking? And if so, did you also get angry about being worried and not being able to shake that feeling or
yeah,
anything related to that?
yeah. Well, and that's again, like I know um, with our time doing the addictions program in a church, like it really kind of opened up a lot of things to me that I didn't understand about myself. And I know anxiety was something that I had struggled with at different times. And I know there are different, there was a season where like I was having panic attacks. I remember one time went to the hospital because like my heart was like seemed to be palpitating and I thought, okay, am I having a heart attack or what's going on? And they brought me in and hooked me up to everything. It's like, no, nothing's wrong. You're fine. And I realized it was just kind of anxiousness. And so I know one of the things that I learned to help me that I spoke about in the book is the idea of Bible meditation, where um, the verse that I used a lot was Psalm 46, 1 and 2, where it says, God is a refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Um, and sometimes when I'd have an anxiety attack, I would just kind of recite that to myself over and over again until I was able to kind of calm down. And and that's helped me. And so I've looked at that. Um, I've also had times I would say where I've kind of got discouraged, place where just feeling pretty low because it just doesn't seem like things were going well with church or other things, and so learning to process that and um, recognizing that okay, I need to take in order to keep that kind of away, I need to take positive steps, right? And I would say with with any because I would say a lot of men can struggle with depression and other things. And like if we have to, it's not something where we want to just do nothing and allow it to kind of come and sweep over us. We kind of realize, okay, I have to take steps to keep that kind of negative thoughts at bay. And so I know different things like exercising, like taking a walk, is always been a good thing for me. Um, some as well of what I've talked about in the book of like gratitude, uh, being intentional on being thankful for what you have, just kind of helps put a person in the right state of mind. And and sometimes like in humility as well is just where you're because if we think we're too highly of ourselves, like a lot of times we'll be way more reactive and things will hurt us a lot more than they need to. And and just where we kind of we get the right like I would say those three things that's kind of in terms of the mental emotional part of our lives that those are I would look at as being key things of peace, humility and gratitude of just it helps keep our mind in the right place, in a healthy place, so that a lot of these other um, things that negative thoughts, negative emotions aren't going to kind of overwhelm us and pull us into one of those dark places that we often find ourselves in.
Yeah, I hear you talk about, I don't know if you used necessarily the word humility, but you mentioned if we think too highly of ourselves, so pride. Uh,
Mm.
and this will sound slightly prideful, but people over my life have said, "Man, you're so humble. You're so humble. You're really good at humility, blah." Yeah, I'm great. I'm great at humility. You're right. But there are certain things where um, I feel like I've become good at in life. Maybe some things that I've tried to overcome, but being qualified or intelligence in certain areas. So when somebody says something and it hits that little trigger spot for me, like
Right.
whoa, like, and that's what it was when you think too highly of yourself, or I feel kind of the opposite of high. Like I've been trying to hide this insecurity for such a long time, and they maybe accidentally stumbled on it, and here you are reacting with anger and pride and like but I think that is a spot where us guys, and then especially inside of our family, where we can tend to not be as well behaved. Our behavior can get out a little bit, and it's that husband and wife dynamic. But yeah, when you've got gratitude and exercise, and you've got some community, uh, that humility can be there and present. And if the trigger and the anger happens, you can recognize it a lot faster when you're in a sense of in a state of peace and gratitude, and you've got good sleep and things like that. So I think these are very good pieces to have together so that we can be in better control of our emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is the thing, is that because a lot of times emotional outbursts can be very costly to us in the relationships we have and in what we're trying to accomplish. And it's not where we want to be afraid of our emotions, but in a sense, we have to take ownership of our emotions, because I think too often we make the mistake of, well, if that person hadn't said or done this, then I wouldn't have reacted in this way. And it's like that's not a mature way of really looking at life and dealing with things. It's like, okay, um, yes, they might have said something that was a bit offensive, but I can measure my response. And that it comes to the sense of controlling the tongue, of just where you you're able to just say, okay, how do I respond in a wise way? And sometimes it might be necessary. Okay, I need to maybe walk away for a bit so I can compose my thoughts, and just I would say learning to have kind of that self awareness in those moments where it's like, okay, I can sense within my body that this reaction is coming. Is this a good reaction to have? Am I overreacting? And being able to calm ourselves down so that we're not um, just having this angry outburst, or where many times we're embarrassing ourselves and kind of really shooting ourselves in the foot of what we're trying to accomplish. That we're trying to get our point across, but once we've lost our temper, then a lot of times nobody's really interested in what we have to say.
Do you have that ever? Do you ever get triggered and lose control of your emotion these days?
Um, there have been times, and I think it's something we all work at, because there's always going to be different things that we're confronted with that are beyond what we would expect, and it's maybe a completely new thing for us, and we're not going to necessarily respond the perfect way the first time, kind of thing, right? And so but it is learning that it's and I would say in the moment learning from things, but then also the sense of not like when you have maybe made a mistake or something has happened where you're taking the proper lessons from it and not dwelling on it, right? Because you can have it either where um, you feel someone's done you wrong, and so then you're basically grumbling over it to yourself and anyone that will listen about what happened, and that, of course, is that doesn't get you anywhere in life. It just kind of poisons your whole thinking. But the other two is like where you've made a mistake, where you recognize, okay, well, I need to learn, I need to grow, but that one moment doesn't have to define me forever. I can, if I need to make something right with someone, I can have the kind of the courage and humility to do that. Um, if I need to go to the Lord for forgiveness for something, that He's always ready for that as well. And so it's just, I guess, realize. I think that's part of it is like we're always growing. We're never going to get it perfectly right all the time, but as if we're at least learning and seeking kind of forgiveness, both receiving forgiveness when we need it, and then giving forgiveness when we need it too. That's I think important as well in the growth process.
Yeah, with the um, spot, like when you feel your anger welling up in you, or you feel that immediate rush of anger where it just overcomes you, is there anything you do? Do you have a kind of playbook in your head, or oh, I'm feeling this. Here's what I do next in a perfect world, as opposed to like needing to get to the forgiveness spot. What can I do to arrest these thoughts, take captive these thoughts, and respond in a way that you want to?
Right. Um, well, definitely for me, I would say many times is pausing, sometimes like breathing a bit, like just try to, because like, and I talk about that bit in the book, the idea of tactical breathing. But like I would say in moments that can work in moments of anxiety, but also in moments of anger too, where you you have, okay, I need to temper my response, and so okay, I need to calm down, and sometimes it's having the presence of mind where, okay, I need to step out of this for a moment because I'm not in the mindset I need to be, and that's in a way that kind of goes against what sometimes our thought is as men, is like, because we're in it, like we're there to fight kind of thing, but um, sometimes if we engage in that fight, even though we might technically win the fight in terms of winning the argument or even physically winning the battle, like we've lost in terms of our reputation and other things. And so it's learning sometimes to step away and come back to it. Um, and then, of course, there's that one verse in Proverbs. It's the discretion of man to deferreth his anger, and it's his glory to pass over to transgression. And that's have I think that's a verse that's very helpful in a situation like that, because first off, discretion is a sense, okay, this is neither the time nor the place to like pursue this. But then sometimes it's the thing is that we have the right to just say, okay, I'm not going to hold this against this person. I'm going to let it go, and just allow, like, if there's some kind of reckoning that needs to happen, I'm just going to let God do that, and it's not going to be where I'm going to kind of get this person back or make this right. Um, and and um, that's something to learn too, because of course I would say there can be moments where if you are ready to forgive and willing to pass over transgression, that there are some that will try to take advantage of that. And so that I know has been a bit of a learning process for me too, is where, okay, um, yes, you're ready, willing to forgive, but sometimes you need to ensure that changes are made for things to continue. And sometimes it's when someone demonstrates that they're trying to take advantage of the relationship, then it that needs to be called out. And sometimes it's there can unfortunately need to be a parting of the ways when it's a situation where it becomes kind of a toxic um, relationship where someone's just trying to use you and not really like they're not seeking to actually grow or improve,
Yeah,
even though you're trying to
they're
help
being a
them.
parasite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
they're being a
so
parasite.
yeah, and that's I would say that's something that again something that I've had to learn like with the addictions program, seeing that in myself, like because I would say I definitely have a tendency, like in like kind of that idea of codependency of wanting to be the rescuer of someone, and I realized that that's that can be a dangerous tendency to like where you're not actually helping the person, um, you're actually enabling them, and so it's yeah it's and that's all part of the growth thing, but it's certainly learning to be able to see see these things kind of as you're stepping back from yourself and realizing, okay, I'm reacting in this way or I'm pushing to this way. Why am I doing that? Is it the right thing? Is it because sometimes like the Bible talks about, our hearts can be deceitful, right? We're thinking we're doing something good and noble, but sometimes it's for our own to make ourselves feel better or whatever, and so we have to um, be be willing to learn in those areas and just get a sense of, wait a minute, uh, I'm I'm not in the right state of mind here, and so I need to kind of step back and come at this from a better angle.
Yeah, you used the term challenge forward earlier, and think about those situations where somebody's being parasitic, and if you could use a win-win or challenge forward, or hey, here's how we can get where we're wanting to go, and or are you, are you, only in this for you, and kind of the wording and the verbiage and all that. I think I've used over my life to help either grow relationships and grow people or to help them grow away from. At times I've been an employer and sometimes people will promote themselves to customer. Like, hey, I understand you're wanting to leave and you're putting your 2 weeks notice in. Well, that's great. You've got a now opportunity to grow and thrive somewhere else where you weren't here, as opposed to firing them. Like they'll discover themselves that the environment isn't right for them. And so rarely have I had to fire anybody because they've coached them their own self into quitting. So I
Yeah,
love the sign that you've gotten back. It says pray without ceasing. So I was just talking with Don Beebe on the last episode, and we talked about that a bit as well. That's something that guys can have challenges with. A lot of guys I know don't even like that verse at all because it grates on them, it wears on them. It's one of the verses in the Bible, but I'll focus on it later. I'll turn the page and move on and grab a new verse to focus on. Have you ever had
mhm.
challenges with it, or have guys ever brought challenges to you with it? And have you got any tips to fall more in a daily rhythm so you can pray without ceasing?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely doesn't come naturally, and I know I've had different times where my prayer life hasn't been what I hoped it would be, but I would say with anything, like you want to make time for it, and so like having some time um, in the morning is always good to kind of get going. But it's a lot of it with praying without ceasing is where becoming aware of God's presence, because He's always with us, right? And um, He's always there to help us, and so it's kind of the thing is like where you could think of it this way, right? If you had someone that was your like a really close friend, and you got to spend the day together, um, you'd be doing a bunch of different things, but you'd be having a conversation. You'd be continuing in like between all that, right? It wouldn't be something that would be awkward. It would just be natural, right? And so it's thinking it in those terms. It's like that's what God wants to have with us, and so it's the sense of just um, having a conversation with God and sharing to Him about different things, and part of it too is like we pray when we recognize we have a need, right? And when things are going well, that's usually when we don't pray as we ought to because we think, well, what do I need to pray for? But um, when we have a sense of our neediness in terms of direction, terms of needing God's strength for the day, God's wisdom when we come across a problem. Um, like if we're having that closeness, that it's the sense that we want to have Him show us, okay, the path that He wants us to take, and it's just learning that that's something that's there for us all the time, and it's the more time we spend in prayer, like the better mental state we'll find ourselves in, like because we recognize God's with us and He's helping us, and so it's um, even though yes, it's something that doesn't come naturally to us, we realize okay, this is going to help my life. It's just going to make my day better, and and even the thing, right? Like if we're say we don't think that we have necessarily needs ourselves, that where we look at it from the sense of an intercessor, right? That we know that there's a lot of people around where they're hurting or they have needs that uh, even if we think we're good, and sometimes we are in a good place perhaps, but we can be certain that there's others that we know that they're struggling, and so as we're having our conversation with God, praying for these people, that it's because many times there's nothing that we can do ourselves to help someone, say if they're across the world or they have, say, a some kind of illness or something that we have no means to heal. That um, we can um, we can hold them up in prayer, and so it's uh, with anything like a discipline, it's something that you're trying to develop a habit, and it takes time. And uh, but I think all of us we would say, okay, if I could have more prayer in my life, that would be a good thing. And so, kind of as we progress and we start to see, okay, the benefits that prayer has in my life, then okay, I'm going to try to add a bit more prayer in my life, and where it's like you kind of like, and a big thing too, I think that helps as well. We mention in the book is keeping essentially like a prayer journal, because sometimes we pray and I think too often our issue is we pray very generally, and and it's hard to really pinpoint, okay, is that how do I know that prayer is going to even be answered because it was so general, right? But if we pray for some specific things and then we start seeing them answered, and there's part of our inner skeptic that can say, oh, that was just a coincidence. But when we start finding more and more of these things as we specifically ask prayer for, that they get answered, uh, that that builds our faith, and it's like, wow, I want to see what God can do. And many times we do um, like a small ask, and then we see God answer that. So that leads us to make a big ask, right? And then see what God can do with that. And then it can be the opposite way too, where sometimes we look to God for when we're in big trouble, and we need His help, and He answers then. But then it's learning, okay, some of the little things I need to ask prayer for too, because many times I think, well, I can sort this out. I don't need God's help. And then it becomes a big problem. And then it's like, okay, God, I need you to intervene. Where we learn, okay, yeah, if I need Him, I need His guidance in the little things as well as the big things. And so, all in all, yeah, it's just the the more we start doing it, the more we start seeing the results from it, both in terms of answered prayer and like the benefit it has been to ourselves through the day. Then I think naturally it causes us to pursue it more. And and it is, of course, we're fighting part of our flesh that is resisting that, keep making excuses not to. But as we learn to say no to that part of us and say yes to prayer, then it we find the blessing that it is.
Yeah, 100%. So I took some notes, and a lot of the things you said are things that I've ingrained over time, but we've got to devote the time to it. So one way to help us pray without ceasing is to start first thing in the morning. So when you fling your feet off the bed and go to put them down, pray before your feet hit the floor. Hey God, help me follow your will today. Show me direction and give me the ability to listen and hear what you're saying. You know, when we're so busy with life and we don't take time to have a productive pause, we don't have silence, we won't hear what God is saying. So when we can start the day out in the morning that way, um, a habit I'd encourage is to have a place where you go to first thing in the morning, um, where you see a prayer, you've got something written, you've got a cue. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I do. One of the places I've got planted is on a mirror in my home when I go to brush my teeth. I've got two prayers that I say every day, and it always happens in the morning because I always brush my teeth in the morning. So it's a pretty fail-safe way to get that accomplished. Then when I go downstairs, I've got a Bible in a certain place, and it's a spot where I sit and have some quiet time in the morning. Uh, Don Beebe talked about whether it's 5 or 10 minutes, and once you practice that and work on that. Sometimes Don goes a couple hours a day in a Bible study with himself and with others. Being aware of God's presence, that productive pause. I love the close friend and spend all day together. Like that's a perfect analogy. So all day long, you're just going back and forth with your buddy because your buddy's around. Um, some people don't like the carefree use of calling God your buddy, but he is. He's your friend. He's also your father, and we need to respect him and understand. He's all powerful and creator of the universe. And it can be a little intimidating to think that you can be friends with a guy like that. He's punching a few weight classes above where we're at for sure.
Yeah.
Having
No,
a
and that I would definitely say with that, because it is, um, and that's part of our identity too, is like understanding, like yes, He's God, He's our Father, but as well we're accepted in the Beloved through Christ, right? And so that's really the sense where He wants us to come to Him, and we don't have to, like yes, we do it respectfully, obviously, but it's he doesn't he doesn't want us to be intimidated by Him. He's like, because the whole picture of what Christ has done, and like when He said it is finished on the cross, that the veil in the temple rent from the top to the bottom, and so that's a sign that we have access to a holy God, that He's not pushing us away, He's welcoming us in, and really that's in many ways another motivation for prayer. It's like I have this tremendous privilege that Jesus gave His life to give me, and so I want to I want to make the most use of that privilege every day, realizing just what it costs to get it for me,
yeah,
and it's yeah, just there's so many different motivations for prayer, but I think that can be a very big one too. Is just realizing how valuable it is that we can pray.
Yeah. I, for whatever reason, you made me think about Jesus washing the apostles' feet. And like that level of, oh, he's so much greater and better and, all this than us. But at the same time, Christ washed our feet. And I think about the movie Jesus Revolution, and they're like, oh, we couldn't possibly let those dirty hippies in the church. It's like, why? Well, they got, dirty feet. Like they're gonna mess our brand new carpet up, ways of the world, materialism. Couldn't let somebody in church because they're dirty. And he's just like, all right, I got it. And then the next week, he's washing everybody's feet before they go into the church. The church pastor is. And I'm like, what a great example of humility and acceptance and just sharing love with each other. It's funny to imagine, as an individual person washing somebody else's feet. Like that truly is showing love for another. And then the journalist, I was going to add that to it. So I'm glad you brought that up. Specific prayer. So lately in the St. Louis area, we've had a child that a lot of us have been praying for a really long time, PK, and she just passed away this week. Um, we had a random shooting happen. A local high school hockey player talking to a Canadian. Local high school hockey player was driving down the highway. He was a passenger, and somebody shot in their car and killed him. Just crazy. And then guy in our community, in our Journey of a Christian Dad community, Joe, his wife Nicole, um, had like a stroke and a seizure, and she's currently fighting for her life right now. She still isn't all the way, but we don't think she's going to die. However, she's still very, very, very much struggling. So praying for her, and by having those specific prayers, when you've got a journal, you can look back and see what you're praying about yesterday. Russia and Israel and the Midwest is things that I pray about all the time. And if you keep the journal and look back, you can see where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, and like it really, really can add some value to your life. And you can look back and see where God has answered prayers specifically for you. So the small prayers leading to the big prayers, the small asks leading to the big asks. God does want us to ask. As a dad, Christmas is coming up. We want our kids to ask for things. I like a gift. And our Heavenly Father has encouraged us. He's written a whole book. And in that book, it talks a lot about asking Him. So, guys, if you're not asking God for things, ask God for things. The longer you're in the book, the more you'll realize the things you start asking for, the stronger your relationship is, are the things that God actually wants to give us. So your
Mhm.
your your things you're asking for are more godly and more rooted in faith than what they first were when you first started reaching out and asking for help. So, Scott, thank you so much for being on today. Is there anything you want to add to what we talked about? And then feel free and share ways for guys to connect with you. And then,
Sure.
yeah,
Um, yeah, with the book, like I just encourage people to get a copy, and it's somewhere I want it to be like, yes, it's something you can work on alone, but it's always better in community, and that you have to you have to kind of take personal responsibility, ownership of your own life, own decisions, and your own personal growth. But it's good to have others to walk with and encourage you in, because like we want to move forward, and that there can be times where you kind of hit a wall and you're not making the progress you might want, and so having someone that you can connect with that can maybe point out some things, and like, and that's kind of the blessing with the book, as you take kind of, you're essentially collecting data on yourself, right? And um, you can analyze that data yourself afterwards, or have someone else help you, and that can sometimes help you see, okay, this is an area I need to focus on, and this is going to help me. And so I just want it. I want to encourage people to connect with others as they use a book, and I'd be glad to connect with you as well. Like have a website, strivingforthemasteries.ca, and there's a way you can contact me on that, and would be glad to to help people personally if there's an area that they could use encouragement on. Um, and I am looking, hopefully within the next few weeks, to get the podcast going that will basically be talking about a lot of aspects of the book just to kind of expand a bit more. And so once that's up, I'll have that noted on the website, and then people can check that out. And I hope that'll be an encouragement to them as well.
That's great. I love it when we first have a new book that's getting launched and then years later look back and go, wow, that's really blessed a lot of people. So I'm looking forward years from now to look back on this time and seeing how your message has helped so many guys. So, and I haven't asked you yet, can you throw out a challenge for the guys, something they can execute week to week, something that might be easy, might be difficult, could take a little time, could take a lot of time, but something where they can become better, a thing they can do where you challenge them forward.
Right. Um, well, I would say to take some time to like get a vision of what they could be, um, where God might be wanting to take them. That like he wants us to have an abundant life, and I think none of us really have a sense of what that could actually be. And so to take some time to kind of dream, okay, if I was able to kind of with God's help overcome some of these bad habits, kind of get more focused in my life, more organized. If I can kind of learn some different things and make some progress, what could be possible with my life? And that's a big thing to contemplate, but I think we all need to kind of be able to dream and just see, okay, what am I here for? What could I do if God could really um, have do the work in His life that He wants to? What could I become? And I think with each of us, as we ponder that, it that can really set us on a path where um, years later we can look back and say, "Hey, this is God's done amazing things in my life, and He's not done yet, and I want to keep going on this journey and just see what He can do uh, in my life and through my life when I yield it to Him."
That's an awesome challenge. I think that matters so much. So, guys that are listening that are 20, you've got all your life to accomplish whatever. And so it might not be, you might feel like it's not all that important to push the pedal down and go a direction. Guys in your 30s, you might think, I'm running out of time. Like, I better push the pedal down now. Like that stuff I thought about in my 20s. And then in your 40s, you might think, gosh, I really, really, really wasted 20 years. Like I made some progress, but I didn't make lots of progress. And in your 50s, you may think, man, didn't do it. Messed up. Too late now. And that's so far from the truth. All the things that got you to where you are things that God is using to develop you to where He wants you to get to. So, this same vision exercise that Scott just talked about, you can apply that in every year of your life. And every year it can be a little different. It made me think about a guy that I know well. He's worked out all of his life, and he was in the gym years back. And a guy walks up to him, and is like, "Hey, man, what do you take?" He goes, protein powder, and I like to eat some steaks and eat salmon and some quinoa and broccoli. He goes, "No, no, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, what are you on? What are you taking? Like, where do you get it from?" He goes, "You don't understand, man. This is 20 years of hard work. Like, this is a lifestyle. I didn't just, pop a pill or take some steroids to look the way that I look. However, if you're the guy looking for the shortcut, there really isn't a shortcut. the answer is take the steps, be disciplined by having some accountability, by having a journal, by having a book, by having men in your life, and looking to go a direction, just taking a step every day in the right direction. You might not be able to do it every day. Certainly, this guy that said he's been perfect for, he didn't say he's perfect for 20 years, but he said he's been working for 20 years. He wasn't flawless all the time. He has cheat days built into his routine and things. But it's funny. Other people might think you cheated to get to where you get to, or you're an overnight success or whatever. But reality is, it's uh, what do they call it? 20 year overnight successes, but it took 20 years of development to get there. So just be consistent. And if you're feeling like you're behind, don't feel that way. Uh, that's what that feeling is saying is it's time to start now. Step up to the starting line and start taking some steps. So God bless you guys for listening. God bless you, Scott. Thanks for sharing and putting all this into a very simple book. And it's a perfect end of the year kind of book to read and think through. And you've got some worksheets that are on your website for free that guys can just print out and fill out. So if you're looking for a framework, it's right there on his website. It's free. So go check out Scott's website and enjoy your families this holiday season, Christmas season, and appreciate your wife, and just develop those habits. And if you're looking for things to do, new traditions to start with your family, start them this year. So don't feel bad about what has happened in the past. Focus on what you can do in the future and the steps you can take. Grow your relationship with Christ by doing things like opening the Bible and developing a Bible habit, developing a better prayer habit. um, Scott mentioned he hasn't always been with a prayer life that he's, desires, but by staying consistent, he comes back to where he wants to be. So, um, we're not, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. So we can strive towards it, but don't let perfection defeat us. So, anyway, I rambled enough there at the end. From time to time, I get fired up and need to share something. So, thank you, Scott. I appreciate your time this morning. God bless you and your family and your mission.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks. God bless you as well.
All right. Have a great day, guys. God bless you. And I guess we're in the Christmas season, so Merry Christmas.